Nigel Farage's right-wing Reform UK party has won the UK's closest post-war by-election to gain its fifth seat in Parliament. After gaining about 14% of the vote in last year's national election, Reform has spiked in popularity. They narrowly defeated Labour in the northwest constituency of Runcorn and Helsby by just 6 votes.
The political earthquake has struck. Reform UK just beat Labour by 6 votes in Runcorn and Helsby, marking the closest by-election in post-war British history and sending shockwaves through Westminster. This isn't just another election result, it's the moment the two-party system cracked wide open. While pundits predicted Reform's growth, few imagined they'd overtake both Labour and the Tories, with a YouGov poll now showing Farage's party leading the nation at 25%. The question isn't if British politics has changed, it's how rapidly the old order is collapsing. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now back to the video.
Early council and mayoral results. It has also claimed a historical victory in the Runcorn and Helsby by-election, its candidate winning by just 6 votes.
Whether we'd won by 6 or lost by 6, I was going to come to this count, support our candidate. And as I say, winning's obviously fantastic. It's not. This is a whole different politics.
Why do you think you've done so well and Labour's vote, as you say, has collapsed?
Loss of confidence in the Labour Party, and no one knows what the Prime Minister really stands for.
6 votes. That's all it took to shatter the political landscape in Britain. A razor-thin margin that's now sent the established parties into panic mode. The Runcorn and Helsby by-election wasn't on anyone's radar as a potential earthquake moment. But the numbers reveal how dramatically British politics has fractured overnight. What made this result particularly stunning was Runcorn and Helsby's status as a Labour fortress. This wasn't just any constituency. It represented the kind of working-class industrial heartland that Labour had considered its birthright for generations. When Labour MP Mike Amesbury resigned after being convicted of assaulting a constituent, few expected his almost 14,700 vote majority from less than a year ago would crumble. The seat seemed impenetrable to challengers, especially to a party that didn't even exist in its current form during the last general election. The night unfolded with a tension that caught even seasoned political observers off guard. As ballot boxes arrived at the count, whispers turned to gasps as early results showed Reform UK performing at levels nobody had predicted. What was supposed to be a straightforward Labour hold suddenly transformed into genuine uncertainty. Counting officials meticulously reviewed ballot after ballot as the gap between the frontrunners narrowed to double digits, then single digits. When the returning officer finally announced the result, it set a record that hasn't been seen since the Second World War. Reform UK had secured victory by just 6 votes, the closest margin in any UK by-election in more than 7 decades. 6 individual voters effectively changed the course of British political history. If just 4 people had voted differently, the result would have swung the other way. This wasn't merely a symbolic victory. It marked Reform, UK's first parliamentary seat taken directly from Labour. Previous Reform and Brexit Party successes had primarily come at the Conservatives' expense, but Runcorn proved their appeal extends far beyond disgruntled Tory voters. They've now demonstrated the ability to crack open Labour's core support base. The demographic breakdown reveals something Labour strategists will find deeply troubling. Reform's appeal resonated most powerfully in exactly the type of communities Labour was founded to represent: working class, Brexit-supporting areas that feel abandoned by metropolitan elites. These voters, once Labour's electoral foundation, now view Farage's party as their champion. Reform's campaign messaging struck a chord that Labour failed to hear. Immigration featured prominently, with Farage specifically highlighting the presence of 750 small boat migrants housed in Runcorn. Economic concerns dominated doorstep conversations, with Reform promising solutions for struggling families facing rising costs. But perhaps most effective was their anti-establishment message, positioning themselves as the only party truly outside the Westminster bubble. What makes the Runcorn result even more significant is how it mirrors Reform's broader success in council elections across England. The party seized control in areas that represent the full spectrum of traditional Labour and Conservative territories. In Staffordshire, Reform captured the county council from the Conservatives, who lost 46 of their previous 56 seats. In Durham, traditionally Labour territory, Reform took control, with 65 of 98 seats. Lincolnshire fell next, with Reform winning 44 of 70 council seats. North Northamptonshire completed the sweep, giving Reform control of another council. These aren't isolated incidents. They represent a fundamental realignment of British politics. The 6-vote victory in Runcorn doesn't just hand Reform a parliamentary seat. It signals the collapse of traditional voting patterns that have defined British politics for a century. We're witnessing the emergence of a genuine three-party system, possibly for the first time since the Liberal Party's decline in the 1920s. Nigel Farage's response in Durham provided a clear preview of Reform's approach to governance.
The beginning of the end of the Conservative Party. They may well have been around since 1832 and the Great Reform Act, but they've been wiped out in the shires of England on climate change initiatives, or diversity, equity and inclusion, or anything, or things they could go on working from home. I think it all better really be seeking alternative careers. It marks the end of two-party politics as we've known it for over a century in this country. It is finished, it is over, it is...
Speaking to cheering supporters, he warned council staff working on climate change, diversity initiatives, or from home to seek alternative careers very, very quickly. This statement reveals Reform's intentions to implement significant policy shifts wherever they gain control, potentially transforming local government priorities and operations. The most alarming aspect for both Labour and the Conservatives is that this might be just the beginning. Rather than a protest vote, these results suggest a permanent shift in voter allegiance. Reform has successfully positioned itself as neither left nor right, but as the authentic voice of communities that feel forgotten by Westminster politics. They've created a new political identity that transcends traditional party lines. For Sir Keir Starmer, this represents a crushing blow. Losing a safe seat with such a substantial previous majority raises serious questions about Labour's ability to connect with its traditional base. For the Conservatives, seeing council after council fall to Reform suggests their identity crisis has deepened further. British politics now stands at a crossroads. The established parties face a stark choice: acknowledge the legitimate concerns driving voters to Reform, or risk becoming increasingly irrelevant. What those 6 votes in Runcorn ultimately represent isn't just the closest by-election in modern history, it's the moment Britain's political map was permanently redrawn. The Runcorn result isn't a political anomaly. It's the warning sign nobody in Westminster can ignore. YouGov now shows Reform UK leading nationally at 25%, with Labour trailing at 23% and Conservatives at just 20%. The political establishment stands on quicksand. As Nigel Farage declared, we're witnessing the end of two-party politics as we've known it for over a century in this country. This shift forces a complete reconsideration of how parties approach voters who feel abandoned, particularly in working-class communities. Professor Paula Surridge notes this fragmentation is here to stay, making it increasingly difficult for any single party to secure a majority. British politics has entered genuinely uncharted territory,